Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve, myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Straub.
It seems like it's been an age since we've been on. It's only been 2 weeks, but I think we got so many regular sessions in, didn't we? Regular recordings in with Loki coming out and, you know, that week-on-week thing. And we miss a week. And I miss you guys. Alex, how you been?
Good. I've bought a couple of Funkos. We had Thanksgiving, so I did a little Black Friday shopping, and I got this cool little guy.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I was literally like in Hot Topic, and I was like, oh my God, I did not know this was a Funko, and I have been kind of not buying as many Funkos lately, but I was like, you know what, I'll be buying that one, so I bought it right away. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I gotta have that one. So
it looks like it was a custom. It doesn't look like it's a real Funko. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't look like Funko have made it.
Yeah, and what's funny is they've marketed it as like a Christmas kind of like holiday Funko, so it's with like they've got like a Loki, a Hulk, an Iron Man, and everything like that. So
I was just seeing if I could find my Deadpool in his Christmas jumper, but it's too far up. I can't reach him. But yeah, I bought a Deadpool in a Christmas jumper. Talking of Christmas Funkos, Jarian, how are you?
Doing good. My Black Friday shopping consisted of waiting for the Avengers Tower to show up on Lego for availability, and I had enough points to where I paid $0 for. So all those points I have saved up, they came in handy.
Very nice. Well done. I can't say I've done any Black Friday shopping, if I'm honest, but yeah, I've been watching 12 Monkeys, Alex.
You like it?
I've been watching 12 Monkeys. Do you know what? It's getting better. Don't get me wrong. I didn't dislike it, but it gets better and better as it goes on. Now, it's as it starts adding more layers, I'm more impressed.
It's funny. You watch that like first episode, and you're like, where exactly is this going? And then you get like, I don't know, like 10 episodes in or something like that, and you just
exactly. I'm about 10 episodes in.
Yeah, I'm like, that's where you're like, I'm hooked. You know, like I like just take me along for the ride. And there's so much like time shenanigans that goes on in that show. It's so good. So
I think there's so many layers. There's a few more layers now. You know, he's getting ahead of himself, and you know the people that he's meeting are telling him about things that he hasn't done yet. Even though it's in their past, but it's in his future, so it's getting interesting now. So I'm quite enjoying that. But yeah, so I've been watching 12 Monkeys, reading a bit of Judgment Day. That's a bit slow, if I'm honest. Judgment Day. I don't know if either of you have read it yet. The big story. It's a bit slow to start with. It's the Eternals versus X-Men thing with the Avengers stuck in the middle. It's a little bit slow. The Eternals part is very convoluted at this point. Like, I don't quite actually understand what's going on, if I'm honest, at this point in time. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. We are here today to talk about the Marvels. We've all seen it. It's been a couple of weeks now since it's been released, and hopefully everybody that's watching has seen it or listening has seen it. But if you haven't, then just bear in mind we are going to be divulging all the information and giving you guys our opinion on that movie and talking about the bits and pieces that were in there. So if you haven't seen it, might be best to not listen to this episode or not watch this episode and come back and catch us at another time.
Real quick, since we're not in the spoiler ban for the group anymore, I didn't put the spoiler ban graphic up because it's been 2 weeks now. So, you know,
yeah,
I think we're safe.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Marvel fan, you're on our group and you're watching this link and you haven't seen the Marvels, come on, what you doing? Okay, so let's get cracking. Do you know what? I think this movie kicks off really, really nicely. That first sort of exchange battle scene, that fight scene where they don't know what's going on with their powers, that we've already seen little bits and pieces of that. We saw it at the end of Miss Marvel TV show. I absolutely loved that. I thought that was so different. I thought it was so fresh. Just a really nice way to kick this movie off. It was fun, but it was it was energetic at the same time. I just thought it was an excellent way to kick off this movie. And there's so many good parts about this movie that we're inevitably going to talk about. But that, for me, the fight scene, certainly that first one, and then when they finally work out how to use their powers together, I thought they were absolutely superb. Really enjoyed the fight scenes in this movie.
Yeah, I think this was the first time we've seen a Disney Plus show actually start a movie, because basically the beginning of this movie was the very end of the Marvels, when she switched when Kamala and Carol switched. So we pretty much started at that same spot at the end of that season and then went into the movie. They may have changed it up a little bit, maybe reshot some stuff, but it was the exact same concept that we saw with the Marvels or Miss Marvel show ending.
I agree with you on that. I feel like maybe WandaVision did kind of set up Multiverse of Madness, kind of, so I mean, maybe that does sort of, I mean, it didn't really like officially start that movie, you know what I'm saying? But this was a great movie to kind of pick up for Kamala to kind of go into, the MCU movies versus the TV shows. And for Monica too. I mean, like honestly, I feel like this movie was kind of special because WandaVision and Miss Marvel kind of impacted this movie being set up, Yep. So it's one of those things where I think that for all three of the characters, they did a really good job too of sharing screen time. They all like had a great screen presence. One didn't take a back seat because of another, like the screen time was amazing, I think, for all three of the main leads on this movie.
And also too, we got another new intro as well. So they changed all the Marvel stuff up like they usually do, and they did all different stuff for the three of them from their different projects, and brought that in. So it kind of kicked off showing us we're building a new team here, and it's going to be the Marvels. And I agree, Alex. They all gelled pretty well in the fight scenes. I think they balanced all the acting very well. The Khan family, their presence was known as well, and just them with Fury interacting, the Flurkin kitties, her mom building that little area for Goose to have the Flurkin kitties. So it was very, their very presence, in the film, it was really good. And I thought the balance was pretty well too. I also thought they did the Kamala being Captain Marvel's fangirl very well. That's a lot from the pages of the comics how she was. I saw people making comments saying that it went a little too far, but if you've read any comic book stories about her, especially that first run where, she does the Terrigen Mist and she has those dreams of Cap and Iron Man and Captain Marvel coming, how big of a fangirl Kamala Khan is of Carol Danvers. So I thought that went very well.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they went too far at all. I think that's exactly, you've only got to go onto a red carpet and you can see how mad some people are for their favorite actors or actresses. Mm-hmm. So why would it be any different for somebody in that world for their favorite superhero?
Well, and I think a lot of that kind of played into this movie, right? Because in this movie, you have Monica and Carol that had a relationship prior to this movie, and Carol hasn't seen Monica in so long, and she feels like she didn't do right by her in the past. So when she meets Kamala, part of this, to me, for Carol, was, I'm going to do right by this young kid like I should have done for Monica. Because, like, her and Monica kind of, like, make amends in this movie, sort of, more or less. But, like, for Kamala, like, this is a very similar situation to the very first movie with Captain Marvel, where, like, she leaves and talks to Monica, and Monica's just a little girl. So, like, to me, that felt like it was kind of like Carol trying to do right. So I feel like, a lot of that, like, kind of fangirlness of Miss Marvel played into this really well. Because, like, it's like a mutual admiration from Carol Danvers and Kamala Khan, like, on both ways. It's not just Kamala Khan just, like, in love with Carol Danvers for being Captain Marvel, so.
I thought that was quite interesting that you say, obviously, Monica had that, hadn't seen Carol for so long. And you had this interesting contrast where there was this real kind of edginess and tension to Carol and Monica, like, in the same scene as Kamala's really excited to see Carol. Carol's like, her mind, you could see she was like, her mind was exploding. She's got this young little girl who's kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe it's you. And then Monica's like, I can't believe it's you. Like,
yeah.
Carol kind of doesn't quite know how to act. She's really confused. She's like, okay, you calm down, and I need to speak to you because I haven't seen you for years. So yeah, I thought that was quite well played. Actually, you had that contrast between Monica and Kamala and their kind of reactions to seeing Carol, and Carol just like not really knowing what to do and how to act in that situation.
Yeah, and there wasn't any like animosity from like Monica to Carol that like lingered for a long period of time. Like they got past that pretty quickly, and it was like, hey, let's get down to like what's the big issue here. Like let's focus on that and move forward and try and do that. And honestly, I think what this movie did well was even in tense moments and in things that were tense, they would throw a little bit of humor in there to kind of lighten the mood, but it wasn't like, hey, let's focus on this for 10 minutes and beat it to death. It was like, a quick joke would be made, haha, move on, and then that was it. And honestly, like I felt like the pacing of this movie was fantastic.
Yeah.
It started off fast, it went through fast, the ending, like everything was fast, and it kept the same pace, and it was good. And it felt like everything needed to be where it needed to be. Humor didn't take like a centerpiece in this movie. We kind of like sat it to the side. We had nice, lighthearted, fun moments, but at the same time, like when things needed to be serious, they were serious.
Yep.
And this movie was excellent for that.
And honestly, too, with the pacing, I felt Nia DaCosta did a great job. Shame on you again, Variety, for that hit piece on her for doing the same thing that other directors do with projects, especially one that got delayed, changed dates, all that kind of stuff. I would love to see Nia DaCosta come back and do another project. The way this team up happened, especially with characters not knowing each other, I think she might be a great one to do the Young Avengers.
Young Avengers, exactly what I was going to say.
I'm going to skip ahead here, and it was interesting because I thought Kamala would get recruited by somebody else, either Cassie or Kate. But the funniest thing to me was that when they were in the Khan house and Kamala got that tablet, she went to work. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing she said, did you know Amy had a daughter? I'm just like, wait a second, here we go. They're already throwing breadcrumbs that early in the film. And then that scene that was supposed to be, I guess, the closing in credit scene, but it ended up being the end of the film, her doing the Young Avengers setup, just like parallels to Fury doing the Avengers setup at the end of Iron Man 1 about, the whole building the universe, that kind of stuff. So I would love to see Nia DaCosta come back and take on the Young Avengers project. Maybe start off with Kate and Kamala, maybe go grab Cassie, and then we start trickling other characters in maybe. But just think the three of them doing a team-up film and getting together and starting that off with some kind of threat and then bringing others in. So I would love to see her do a Young Avengers project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. We've already touched on the dynamic between the three main cast members. I thought it was absolutely superb. I thought their relationship, I mean the actresses' relationship here and the way that they bounced off each other was really, really good. And I thought the writing was excellent. I thought the editing was brilliant. Just the way that the three interacted. And I think, Alex, you touched on it already, the amount of screen time that they each got. It did seem, it did slightly weigh in Carol's favor, which I suppose it should, because it's kind of her sequel in a way. And she's kind of like the sort of senior member of this team, I guess. But I just the dynamic between the three actresses, I think they've done a fantastic job. I've always, I understand people don't like certain people, and that's fine. But I've always thought that Brie Larson did a good job as Carol. Like we said, we've read her before, and she is that sort of stern, kind of stoic, emotionless,
strong-willed, stubborn.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, as Tiona Paris, I thought she'd done a great job as Monica. She still came across as intelligent and like she knew what she was doing, and somebody that had been brought up in that kind of military background. Then you had, Iman Vellani, who's just so endearing. You just cannot not like her. So I thought it was very, very well balanced. I thought the three girls done superb, and I really enjoyed watching them on screen together when they were all there together.
And speaking of that dynamic too, I felt they pulled in elements of WandaVision and Captain Marvel's the first movie very well, using that scroll device for the memories, because she'd forgotten things. We know that with everything that happened to her with Amhala and with the Kree, but then also too, showing back that moment when Monica got snapped, and then we saw that interaction when Captain Marvel did come back to Earth to talk to Maria while she was having cancer, and Maria saying, "Go do your thing. You know, you can't stay here and take care of me," type scenario. But then too, as they were using that to kind of figure out what was going on and all looking together, she was trying to build pieces back and showing Monica, and I think that helped bridge the relationship too. You know, of that she can't remember. That's why things are so different. Things happen to her, and she's trying to get that back. She lost all those memories. So I thought they did that pretty well. Didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I felt, again, the pacing and the way they did things in the movie.
Yeah, I honestly felt like in this movie, obviously Kamala Khan stood out and she was great, but I really think for Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, I think she brought it for this movie. Like, this is her best performance as Captain Marvel, in my opinion, because it was a performance that gave Captain Marvel more depth, I think, than she's had in any performance yet. And like we've seen, like I felt like her first movie felt a little bit rushed. I felt like, you know, that was just to get her in Endgame and everything like that. And you know, that happened. It is what it is. But like for this movie, like we had her like show like remorse. She was frustrated. She was upset. She was trying to make things better. She was trying to make things right. You see the events of the previous movie had a negative impact, and she realizes that. And yeah, I mean, like I felt like her performance was top tier in this movie, and one of the best performances, if not the best. And there nothing against, you know, Iman for her performance, but it's just Brie Larson, man. I'm not a big Captain Marvel fan, but I thought like Captain Marvel was amazing in this movie, and so I was blown away.
A couple of things in the chat here. First one, Kamala waiting for Kate reminded me of when Yelena was waiting for Kate in her apartment eating macaroni. That's a good shout out there. Mm-hmm. And then right here what you just said about Brie Larson playing Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Agree with Alex. It was her best outing. Also, too, we have a new Disney princess, right? That whole thing with with her being married to the prince and the singing, and people were like, "There's gonna be a singing planet. They're gonna have musical." I'm just like, you know what? Who cares? Well, let's see what happens first. And they did that great as well. We find out that she did it for a thing of convenience to help the prince out. But then again, we find out she has possibly another relationship with Valkyrie of Asgard. So yeah, so there's a little entanglement going on there, you know, outside of the powers with Carol Danvers.
I like how they did that musical thing though, because I was not thrilled about there being. I thought there was gonna be like a 5-minute scene, you know, about like musical and stuff, and I was like, man, how are they gonna put a musical and slide it into this? And they kind of like did it. It wasn't like overbearing. It was kind of funny, and then it was like, okay, like we're right past it now. Like 2 minutes go by, we're over it. Like it's done. Let's move on. And I was like, wow. Like I totally expected it to be drug out longer. I totally expected it to be like funnier, but it was like tasteful, and they had this nice little moment where Monica and Kamala are standing there making jokes while she's like talking to the prince, and I was like sitting there chuckling because it was like everything that they said was funny.
Yep.
Like and like yeah, I mean like it was a great scene, and it was just one of those things like let's get it done and move past it, and it was great.
From the chat here, that was the only cringe moment for me I can do without all that. It wasn't that much though, so I kind of disagree with this comment.
Yeah, but you know that
hastily.
You know who that is, though.
RMC.
Yeah.
Back to that planet, though, too. We actually got Kamala's sash, too. You know, the new outfit.
And Monica's sort of big drapes as well. Like, is this too much? Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, it's ripped them off. Yeah.
Yeah, I did find that quite funny.
Yeah, it was pretty cool how they tied that into where they got those new costumes, that sash that we see Kamala from the comics. You know, and the way she's at the fight, that was all done in that planet. So I like how they snuck things in and worked things into the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Just going back on Kate, her security is terrible. You know, we've already had Yelena just leave her apartment, and now Kamala.
Well, granted though that Kamala had that tablet, so Kamala already had all the information there, and so you know that could be part of it too. And also with Yelena, she's a assassin, so
very true.
Yeah,
very
you got two people there. It wasn't just anybody breaking into there.
No, that is true. That was average Joe sitting there having breakfast. So yeah, we've got 3 great leads. Great leads. We can't argue with that. What do we think of the villain? What do we think of Zoe Ashton's villain?
I thought she was great. I thought she did a great role, and it's killing it. We have, you have 2 great villains. one went to the different path that are married in real life. Loki's character, he's kind of changed at the end of Loki. She stayed that way. She had a chance to actually help her planet and that kind of stuff. But she's like, I'm going out, like this. And it was kind of similar. So her, the way she went out was similar to the Power Stone that we saw in the Guardians of the Galaxy at the Collector. But I thought she did great. Goes back to a Tony Stark line in this movie. We create our own demons. She saw what Carol did after she went back to Hala to destroy the Supreme Intelligence. Their planet was dying. Her motives were revenge on Captain Marvel, but also trying to find a way to save her planet too. So I like how they worked that whole the villain piece in here. I wish they didn't kill her, especially with all the chatter about Fantastic Four getting a female Herald. I think she probably would have been a great Herald. Her out there floating in space somewhere, and then Galactus finding her, and then we see her again. But yeah, I don't like seeing villains get killed in these films.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And I really think that for this movie, she had that line where she's like talking to somebody, one of the other Kree, and she's like, they say something like, that can destroy you or whatever and she's like, yeah, but I'm willing to do that or whatever. And I was like, oh, like she's probably going to die. And so like, I was like, okay. And then I think like 15, 20 minutes later, she dies. But like, it was one of those things where it was a nice change of pace for me. I was like, that's actually not a bad death, because it wasn't like her dying in a fight against the heroes or something like that. It was her dying, like sacrificing herself, trying to do something that she believed in almost. So to me, I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of like not really like, I don't really want to see like any villains die, in the MCU, but like that's a problem that we've struggled with for a very long time with the MCU. But yeah, I mean, like I felt like it was an interesting little change of pace. I was like, oh, okay, all right, like yeah, she died. I'm not thrilled about that, but it was different, and I kind of like the way they did that. So
also too with her. Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Oh no, I was going to say, just rewinding back to the Supreme Intelligence, the little flashback there. That was a great little flashback to the comics, and quite comic accurate, seeing his big head with all the attachments, coming out of him or it. I thought that was just quite a cool little moment. Actually, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and so that's I was gonna say what I was gonna say about the Bengals. So we kind of figure out the Bengals' origin. I still want to figure out how that one got on Earth and how the clandestine were involved with the Bengals, because we find out the Bengals are basically quantum bands. Mm-hmm. There are supposed to be 2 on that planet. We find out she's using the one to siphon resources back to Hala, because Hala's dying. So water from the one planet where the prince is, the Earth's sun she was trying to get from the other one. I think she was getting oxygen from the Skrull refugee colony, that one there. So it was pretty interesting to see that. And then because Kamala had the Bengal, and since they all have light-based powers, so once those jump points were open, and also the Bengals were actually used to create the jump points that we see in the MCU as well. So some tie-in there.
An awesome plot point. Yeah. I love that they added that in there. That was so awesome.
So it was pretty interesting to see how they tied the Bengals in, how they got entangled, and how Dark Ben was using the Bengals to actually, pull resources, killing other planets, but pull resources into her planet to save it. So.
Did you notice the little nod to the comics as well? The way that she used both Bengals together, where she clashed them together, like that. Yeah, that's what Marvel used to do all the time, and when him and Rick used to change places, and they used to clash the quantum bands. I thought that was a nice little nod to the comics. The way she did it, it was exactly the same way. That little cross-armed clashing the bands. I loved that. I thought that was really cool.
Also, one thing real quick, Alex, the whole thing with the Bengals and siphoning resources, it was kind of similar to how Loki left the Bifrost open, which would destroy Jotunheim as well in the Thor movie. So a little parallel there too between those two characters. Now they're using that. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I was just going to say, we know one Bengal was originally found on Earth in the Ten Rings temple that looked like it was on a Kree arm. So you would assume like a Kree probably had it. But that place, when the movie starts, where they find the other Bengal, it's like sealed up in like a chamber that's underground or something. I don't know if they said exactly where that was. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I just wanted to know how it got there. Like, I was just like, it seemed like somebody took it and hid it there. And it was one of those things where I thought the exposition about what those were, what they did, and everything, it was quick, but man, it told us like everything that we needed to know, and it just ran right through it and moved on. And honestly, I really liked what they did with that, and I liked how they kind of tied it into this story. And you mentioned the jump points being like created by those. I thought that was awesome that we went from jump points are being created to also like you can tear down like the barriers between like universes with them, and like that, I thought that was like great how they did that visually, because even when that barrier got torn down basically between the universes, it looked like a massive jump point almost. Like,
well, they did say the jump point system are wormholes. I took tons of notes. I was able to take notes while we were sitting at the movie theater, so I was like taking notes the whole time. But yeah, they basically said it's the jump point system are wormholes. In that, and I also thought it was interesting too. They called our hammer a universal weapon. That's what. Yes.
Yeah, that was interesting actually. Yeah, because they specifically called that out, didn't they? The name of their hammer. So yeah, I found that quite interesting as it happens. Just before we get onto the ending, first of all, hello, Ali HS, how you doing? Good to see you there. If you've got any comments, drop them in that comment section and we'll see if we can read them out. Any thoughts on the movie? But yeah, before we get to the ending of the movie, just the slightly extended cast. And I say the slightly extended cast because actually, when you think about it, outside of the three main characters, there wasn't a very big cast to this. Like, not many other people had lines. If you take out the Khan family, Nick Fury, and, one or two people on Saber. Oh, and the Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody else really had lines. There wasn't really many characters in this movie, was there? Which I quite liked because it didn't muddy the waters too much. You didn't have to worry about trying to get to know any new people, which actually that probably helped, to be honest. We already knew the three characters. We just wanted to know more about their relationships, so we didn't actually need to know about the actual characters themselves. That's probably why we could dive straight in. And the pacing was actually better because it wasn't like we've got to introduce this new person. Yeah, we got introduced to Dar-Benn, but that was quickly done. Nice little flashback, quite quick, and it was done. But the extended cast, Nick Fury, I thought his little engagements were quite good. And funny enough, look, someone just put a comment.
Before we get to that about the characters and that kind of stuff, like I was hoping maybe we get like a Blue Marvel tease. Maybe we would find out, who the engineer was that helped her during WandaVision, maybe some of that story. But you know what? We didn't need it. Back to the whole pacing thing. Like I said, I thought Nia DaCosta did this very well. It went from A to B pretty quickly. We got the story. It was good. My daughter enjoyed it, who she never has wanted to go see a Marvel movie in the theaters. But after she saw Miss Marvel series, she wanted to go see the Marvel. She was laughing the whole time. She was edge of her seat watching it. So, like I said, that pacing, all they did very well. The comment here, then I was gonna say this next. Was Fury's performance kind of oddly cheerful if this was either right after Secret Invasion? Well, this was after Secret Invasion, right? Because they brought up the whole peace treaty talks between the Skrulls and the Kree, and we saw that with Captain Marvel showing up, that those talks have broken down. And then I thought it was interesting. My only minor issue here was that
Skrulls.
Once the Skrull Emperor colony that we didn't see in Secret Invasion, but we saw now, that they were out there on a planet. Once that planet was destroyed and they saved as many as they could, including the Emperor, that they're on New Asgard now. It's like, but the end of Secret Invasion, the president's like,
well, are they on New Asgard, or did Valkyrie just find them a home? They didn't actually say they were going to New Asgard.
I thought they said they were going to New Asgard.
I thought they just said Valkyrie would find them somewhere safe to go.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'm confusing that.
They specifically said they were going to go to New Asgard, but maybe they did. I don't know. I've only seen it once.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you can also, I guess, justify that as, like, they're in New Asgard, which is in Norway, which isn't part of the United States, so the president really has no jurisdiction there. You could claim that. But yeah, like, I felt like this, looking at Secret Invasion and looking at this movie, Secret Invasion does not line up with this movie.
Nope.
And I know that there were some reshoots that happened and stuff like that, but honestly, I hated Secret Invasion more after this movie. Because like I don't want to lay this at the feet of this movie. Yeah. I think that was at the feet of Secret Invasion, and I can tell like Secret Invasion I think had it. I mean, it looks like when you watch it, like they were probably going one route with the story and then they changed it at some point. So I think that the biggest issue for me with this was the Skrulls and them just being on that They could have gone to that place with Emperor Droge, and then, like you said, the thing with Valkyrie. And then at the end of this movie, when Saber is going to go down and they have to get everybody off, where do they all end up? They end up bringing all the off-world people back to Earth in the United States. So it's
including
like,
the Flurkins.
yeah, and including the Flurkins. And it's like the president just like declared like war against all off-world combatants. So it's like, okay, so like that didn't really line up. But
Yeah, and maybe I thought we would see Vara or Priscilla.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Priscilla in here because she went with Fury to do it with the peace talks, that kind of stuff. Nothing with that, which I said I'm fine. The Secret Invasion stuff is not the burden of this film; it's the burden of Secret Invasion. I just felt that the tone switch was kind of too close for that. I wonder if we'll touch on Secret Invasion somewhere else down the road. Especially we saw how it ended and there's more people out there. But yeah, we'll table that right now. Unless Andy has anything he wants to say about Secret Invasion.
No.
Okay. From the chat here, the movie was disappointing. I love Miss Marvel and her family, and Brie Larson felt like she definitely had more fun in this one. But other than that, I didn't like it much. 3 for 10 for me. That's fine. Everyone's cup of tea. That's fair. Didn't they switch, or did I already read this one?
No.
Oh, didn't they switch SI releases? SI was supposed to be after the Marvels, I thought. I don't know, because they still changed so many times. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
I think the Marvels were supposed to be a long time ago, wasn't it? So it would have technically, it would have been. I don't think they switched releases. I think Secret Invasion came out when that was supposed to, but the Marvels were supposed to come out a long time ago. But just back on your point there, Alex, I think you're absolutely right, because I really enjoyed Secret Invasion until about episode 4, and then I went, what's happening? Like, what happened? What happened there? Just complete switch of everything. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a good point. They probably wanted to tell one story and then just completely changed it and told a completely different story in the last 2 episodes.
And I think for me, my biggest struggle with Secret Invasion is like we were told that was an espionage show. It's meant to be like an espionage show, and it's meant to be like an espionage show from the perspective of you don't know who these people, these aliens could be. So it's like spies. Like you don't know who you're actually fighting. But like when you in that show with a superpowered CGI fight and it's 2 superpowered individuals that have all the powers, that's like, that is just not what I was expecting. Like not only do they have superpowers, but they basically got all the powers from the in-game battle, so it's like, okay. And I mean, like I think that kind of hurt that show a lot for me, because that would be like having Black Widow get superpowers in her movie and then fighting somebody else with superpowers. I get it, like Taskmaster isn't just like a natural like fighter, it's kind of like a machine in this with like the with that. But yeah, I mean it's not like how Taskmaster is supposed to be, obviously, but yeah, like it would have been crazy had we would have seen Black Widow with her getting like superpowers and somebody else getting and then them clashing at the end, and that's how that ends. It would have just been, like what in the world? But yeah,
agreed.
So moving on to this other comment, the cats were cool. I love cats. I give it a 4 out of 10 LL. And yes, so Goose, right? So it was funny that not funny, but we saw Goose, but it was funny that Kamala's mom was suspicious the whole time about that cat. And she's like, that cat's pregnant. Because, she knew the entire time because she built a little altar for him, and they didn't explain how it happened. Maybe all the jumping stuff, maybe just Goose is, produced on his own, that kind of stuff. That's fine. But I feel like with Goose, though, and all those kitties, I was pretty cool to use those to get out of Saber when it was going down, to basically ingest all those people because they ran out of pods. But one thing did pop in my mind, though. Could one of those Flurkin kitties end up being Lockjaw substitute? Because we know they've kind of glossed over the whole Inhuman stuff. We know from this film that the Bengal, that Kamala can have powers without the Bengal. The Bengal was basically her Terrigen Mist in the MCU that activated her mutant powers. So could they make a Flurkin kitty be Lockjaw in the MCU?
So Jarian, what you're saying is that not only do we have race swaps, not only do we have gender swaps, now we're going to have species swaps. Yeah, potentially. I love the line over the tunnel that was coming on. Stop running and let the Flurkins eat you.
Yeah, that was so funny. And I think Kamala was running with one of the cats, and it was like eating people, and I think she was like saying, "I'm sorry," like at one point or something like that. And what was funny was at first I was a little bit dumbfounded when they open up a panel and they find like the little Flurkin egg in there or whatever, and I was like, huh. But with this Marvel Collector's Core box, I actually got the Flurkin Funko, and it had the little like egg one popping out, and I was like, wow, and like my brain went back to that, and it was like, oh wow, it kind of spoiled that for me, you know, like not, but I knew instantly what that was, and I was like, oh wow, okay, so it's Flurkin, and yeah, I thought that was a very creative way that they did that with the Flurkin to get people off when the escape pods weren't working and things like that. So
from the chat here, I'm here for all of the Flurkins, and they're literally hurting cats in this film.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into these big moments at the end. I think we've kind of touched on it already when Dar-Benn opens up the sort of portal to the another dimension. We see the powers of the sort of three people coming together to close that portal, and then we end up with Monica stuck on the other side of it, and that big ending scene. What did we think of? I think Alex, you already said about the fact that it can open. It was the bands that opened up this other dimension. I kind of thought, why did Monica have to close it from the other side? Why couldn't she just close it from our side?
Maybe because it was like pushed out into ours, maybe, and she had to pull it back. But also, too, real quick, Alex, that trailer, the very first trailer gave it away. Intergalactic song, Another Dimension. They literally gave that away with the music in the very first trailer for this film. Go ahead, Alex. Your thoughts on the...
You know, I honestly feel like it... I mean, honestly, the main reason why she had to close from the other side is because of the plot, right? Like, you know, like, I mean, they had to do that. But I mean, like, I think that was a really good moment too, even for Carol, because like Carol has that moment where she's like, no, I'm not gonna let this happen, and she like goes zipping over there to try and save Monica and rip her back before like it closes, and doesn't get there in time. So that kind of, I mean, I think for ending this movie, Carol goes off, she restarts the sun, you know, on Hala, which are in that solar system. Yeah. So I thought that was great. I loved how she did that. Kamala comes back, and Kamala's very sad and upset of what happened. But like, you know, we see Monica, we have this amazing ending that we see, and obviously that's why they had to put Monica on the other side. And I don't know if you guys want to talk about that just yet.
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick. Before you get to that, though, I thought it was very interesting that Carol still had the one bangle on, even when they were back at Monica and Maria's house, right? They never showed... You only saw that one moment with Kamala having both bangles on at the very end, but then she gives the one to Carol to go fix Hala's son. And then even as she's moving into the Rambeau house, that she still has a bangle on. So I wonder what's going to play with that. Is she going to keep one? Are we going to see Kamala with both? Because I don't think we ever saw Kamala again with both bangles.
Oh, I was just about to say, maybe we'll get them being able to swap places.
Yeah,
you know, a little bit like Captain Marvel and Rick Jones used to do. But
that's a good point.
Obviously, if they've only got, well, no, I suppose if they've still got one bangle each, maybe they can still do that. Maybe that's like a link between the two of them. Maybe, I don't know.
Possibly.
I mean, almost kind of, I know this sounds weird, but it's almost kind of like friendship bracelets, you know? Like, and I feel like Carol's probably like, okay, this is incredibly dangerous having one of these. One of them needs to stay with Kamala, but I'll take the other one and I'll just hold on to this. And if somebody comes for it, like, she's Captain Marvel, right? Like, she's a bulldozer, so like, good luck trying to take it from her, you know? Like, and that's where I feel like they'll probably go with that.
Also, too, did you notice that Kamala had a line similar to Hulk in Endgame, where Hulk said with the whole gauntlet to bring everyone home, I was made for this, and then Kamala with the whole Bengals thing at that thing of the tear stuff, I was born for this. So a lot of parallels here in this film. My last thing I'll say before we get to that end credit scene was it just Carol moving into the Rambeau house, or was it the Khan family too? Because their house got tore up in the beginning of the film. So were they also going to stay there on the Rambeau ranch? So that's interesting too, just how everything ended with the family. But let's go ahead and get to the...
Yeah, I mean, that was unsurprising in a way. I mean, I think we was all kind of expecting something similar to that to happen. Who we thought might be turning up, and how they turned up, you know, was sort of slightly varied. But yeah, I mean, first of all, we get you know, Lashana Lynch again playing a different version or another character. She's now played 3 different versions of herself in the MCU. So yeah, we get her as binary in a pretty cool outfit, if you ask me.
A mutant, even, because Binary is a mutant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I thought that was really cool, and obviously that huge Beast is back. The Beast is back, and it was Kelsey Grammer voicing him, wasn't it? And it was a full CGI, which I really liked. I thought it was really really comic accurate look of him. He had those kind of the canines, the teeth over the top. He had his big lab coat on. He was huge. So yeah, I mean, it was great. He mentioned Charles. So and with Lashana Lynch playing Binary in that universe, we know that that's not 838 because
she was Captain Marvel in the
one. She was Captain Marvel in that one. So what universe is this? Is this a universe that we've seen before in some of the other X-Men movies? Probably not. If this is a slightly different version of Beast that we've seen.
I don't know, because they played the X United and the X-Men Last Stand music, which both films Beast was in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's in that. I think they're in that universe right now. If you also look to the mansion and that where they were at, you saw the door there to look like Cerebro possibly when they panned out. Also, too, that was similar to the room that when Logan woke up in. Mm-hmm. I believe in one of the very first X-Men movies in the mansion. That he was in that room, similar room as well. So I'm all for it, and I'm all for CGI Beast as well. Kelsey Grammer can voice him way into his late age. We've seen James Earl Jones do the voice of Vader for many years, and that way Kelsey Grammer has to show up, do his voice stuff, not have to worry about age, anything like that, not have any of those issues, and I hope they maintain the CGI Beast.
I agree.
Yep, agreed.
Questions here. Is Binary a mutant in the comics? Yes, Binary is a mutant in the comics, and also a member of the X-Men at some points. A member of X-Men. She's also on different teams as well. And then, did anyone else scream when Beast appeared? I didn't scream when Beast appeared. I think I was more when I seen Maria, because the whole time I was like, "It's Maria, it's Maria, it's Maria," as we came up to this movie and the whole costume and that kind of stuff. So for me, seeing the reunion between Monica and Maria, but it was heartbreaking because in that universe, it appears there's no Monica yet, or Monica never exists in that universe. So Maria doesn't know who Monica is, and it'd be interesting to see where we go from here, and who pops and where they pop up next, right? Are we not going to see them again until the Kang Dynasty? Is this the start of Incursions? Is this the start of what Loki did with the branches at the end of Loki? Because it seems like Beast was knowledgeable of things going on like this, and so maybe they've already started seeing these things happen.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't actually hear the word incursion.
No, we did not. But he alluded to it, but they never said incursion at all in this film.
Which it's weird. It's like at the end of the second Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, we hear the word incursion, but we don't hear it in this movie. And it's kind of alluded to in that movie, but we actually kind of see it almost happening here in this when the boundary is starting to break down between the two realities.
It would have been nice, wouldn't it, if Beast would have said, this could have caused an incursion. Or something along those lines. You being here could cause an incursion, and we then know that Beast is studying it from his side. He's studying incursions from his side. We've got Doctor Strange and Clea studying incursions from that side, and then are there other people studying incursions? Is somebody in Wakanda is Shuri studying what's going on or something? I don't know, but yeah, I think they probably could have put in a little nugget like that. Beast could have been a little bit more knowledgeable on what was going on, maybe.
And I mean, Beast had a great line too, where he mentions about the multiverse, and I think he says something like, well, this shouldn't really be possible, or something like that. When they're looking at Monica and Maria's sitting there and everything like that. So it seems like they haven't really been outside of their universe, I would say, almost, or at least the X-Men probably haven't, because Beast would know, I would assume. So I thought that was a nice little kind of thing that they kind of threw in there too.
From the chat here, yeah, I think it's Fox's X-Men. Beast probably just got a different haircut. Yeah, I'm agreeing. It's Fox X-Men as well. Maybe Deadpool 3. It'll be the first time we hear of an incursion outside of Multiverse of Madness. That's the only project next year. All eyes are going to be on that project. So maybe things will start picking up, because until now, other than Multiverse of Madness, it's all been breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Okay, let's start wrapping the Marvels conversation up then. Before we move on, where are we thinking this movie? What's our overall thoughts on this movie, Jaren? I'll start with you because I pretty much know Alex's overall thoughts. What's your overall thoughts on this movie, Jaren?
I loved it. I don't know where to rate it though. I just loved it though. I loved the fact that the pacing of it. Like I said, I felt Nia DaCosta did an excellent job with this film. I think my thoughts on this is pretty high just from the fact that I want her to take on the Young Avengers. So, in the fact that my daughter, wanted to go see it, was on the edge of her seat laughing the whole time and enjoyed it, that's a bonus for me too, because that's one, being able to share that with her. I don't know where I'm going to put this on the scale, but it's rated pretty high for me. Like, I'll actually go back and watch this again and again and again, probably, especially once it comes on Disney+.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go and see it again. My son, in fact, both of my sons have both gone and seen this movie again. And I had the opportunity to go and see it with my younger son. And I sat past it up. Something else popped up in the end, and I had to go and do this other thing. But I was like, I was going to go and see it again. And I'm disappointed that I didn't actually. So I'm enjoying that. I'm looking forward to seeing this movie again. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think that for me this year, I think I was the most excited for Quantumania, right? And it wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't what I expected it to be. I felt like this movie was definitely at the bottom of my list of movies I was like excited for coming out. But surprised as like I am, this is probably one of my favorite Marvel movies I've seen in a long time. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that movies like Love and Thunder, I felt like humor was just the centerpiece and there was too much of that, and this didn't have it. And I love the pacing. I thought it was fast. It was great. For me personally, I would probably give this movie at least an 8 out of 10. I mean, I think for me, like, the Skrulls thing aside, like, I don't lay that at the feet of this movie. I lay that at Secret Invasion.
Exactly.
I thought that was already a mess as it was. But for me, like, Brie Larson, I think, stole the show for me in a way a little bit, just as much as Kamala Khan did as a character. Because, like, for me, Brie Larson playing Captain Marvel has always been kind of like a not really a very in-depth character for me. And I felt like now watching this movie, like, she showed growth. She showed, like, change. Like, she was trying to make things better. She was trying to do right by other people. Like, I thought they really like did really well writing her character and with this movie and letting her kind of like grow a little bit throughout this movie. And not only that, it's a great sequel to the first one. It literally piggybacks right off. Yeah, sequel. But I mean, it piggybacks right off of the events of the first movie in a very excellent way. And it's not one of those things where it focuses on that. It's like, hey, Carol, you kind of messed up. And yeah, she is trying to right her wrongs in the past,
Nice.
Yeah. I real quick, I felt like, just to piggyback on, because I completely agree with what you said, it did piggyback on that. It did tie in the WandaVision. It did tie in Miss Marvel show very well. I think my only misstep, because it's like you said, Secret Invasion is outside. They should have called this Captain Marvel 2 The Marvels. I think that would have done well worldwide for this film in that sense. So go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
No, I was going to call this a sequels because it is a sequels. It's a good sequel to Captain Marvel. I agree, Alex. But you jumped in. You got in there before me, Jaren. It is a sequel to WandaVision in regards to Monica's story. It's a sequel to Miss Marvel for Kamala's story. It ties up a couple of little loose ends from other bits and pieces as well. So from Endgame and we see Nick Fury again. So. It's the sequel to a lot of things, this movie, and I think for me it's an enjoyable movie. I really liked it. It was nice and compact. I really liked the fight scenes. I thought they'd done something different there with that. I thought the music was great, and I think actually maybe more Marvel movies need to be below 2 hours.
Yes.
Maybe that's the key.
If they're like this, I would agree, because like maybe there's just too much, like added stuff that we don't need in some stuff. And I think for this movie, it was a great standalone movie. Like, like I took somebody that hadn't seen hadn't seen Miss Marvel or WandaVision, and like they loved this movie. They thought it was great. Like, they didn't really need to know about any of that. Like, they met the characters in this movie. They gave exposition to explain a lot of things. It wasn't like you needed to watch the show because like they just basically told you real quick.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this movie really did well.
So I said at the top of the show that I was watching Judgment Day, which is this huge convoluted story. I also read World War Hulk the other day, and it took me about 20 minutes, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just said about that little exposition, I mean, I know the story of Planet Hulk, so do I really need to, maybe it's a little bit different, but they give you enough exposition in that World War Hulk story that if you hadn't have read Planet Hulk, you kind of at least get the idea, and then you can read Planet Hulk within, I mean, it took me a little bit longer than 20 minutes. Maybe it was about an hour, but it wasn't long. I literally read it in one sitting in the afternoon. Do you know what I mean? So there's that nice compact little sort of burst of comic. So yeah, really liked it. Let's read out those couple of comments, Joan, and then let's move on to some news of the week.
Yep, first one. I think it's a good kids movie. And my 4-year-old cousin liked it a lot. Here's one. Another one from the chat here. I think this may rotate into the preferred background viewing, like Ragnarok and Civil War. So that's really good. This one here. 7.5 to 7.75 was definitely a good movie. It's really too bad it couldn't get marketed properly. Deserves better at the box office than what it's gotten so far, which I think, because I've been seeing people talk more about this, and they're seeing more packed films now. Maybe the holiday weekend, maybe this will be like Elemental, where it started off slow but then picked up steam later on, possibly. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But yeah, good comments there. One thing I want to talk about if we were going to the news, which I'll start with the Marvel's news, but Young Avengers, do you want to talk to them real quick? So it looks like they're definitely, well, not doesn't look like, they definitely are establishing the team as Kamala being the main person, right? She might end up being how Tony's not really Tony Stark, I guess. Maybe it's kind of the Tony Stark-ish, because he was kind of the one that kept bringing them together at times, I guess. Kind of but maybe, yes. Anyways, she's the Fury Fest Stark of the team, seems like. First one out there, Kate Bishop, I'm not surprised by that one, especially with how good she was in Hawkeye series. I was going to expect her or Cassie Lang to show up, but that she mentioned Cassie Lang in the film. That's a good sign that she's probably going to be the next person they recruit. But I wonder where they go from there, right? So we know we got America Chavez out there from Multiverse of Madness. We know we got Riri out there from Wakanda Forever. And I wonder how they're going to do Riri. Is she going to be a Victor Timely descendant? Could she be the Iron Lad of the Young Avengers in the comic book role there? We know we're going to get Billy and Tommy back. It looks like we're starting off with one of them in Agatha series. Teddy Hulkling, do we think he's going to appear at some time in the MCU? They've had some very good opportunities. Like I was saying, they could have had Hulkling teased in this film. They could have just said Kamala's friend Teddy, and we could have found out that maybe that on Carol's travels, that maybe because she has the Kree blood in her, that she possibly had a relationship with a Skrull. That's how they come with Hulkling as a Skrull Kree hybrid. They could have done that. Maybe they could have found that. Maybe she went back to Holland and found out that Von Rogg possibly defected after the first Captain Marvel film, and he had a child with a Skrull person. Who knows? But I wonder where we're going to see him. We know we got Isaiah Bradley from Falcon and the Winter Soldier out there. We'll probably see him in Captain America 4, possibly Brave New World. Harley is still floating out there. I don't know what they're going to do with Harley from Iron Man 3. He showed up in Endgame at the funeral. He's canon to the comics now. I don't know what they're going to do with him in that role. And then we also saw Kid Loki in The Void, which we could see Kid Loki possibly again in Deadpool 3, because it looks like they're going to be in The Void. So what do we think we're going to see here with the Young Avengers team in the MCU?
I'm a little bit worried we don't see Hulkling, because I feel like it's one of those things where with the age of where the character would need to be, if we didn't see him by now, it would be great to see him maybe in the future, maybe out of this whole thing, the Kree and the Skrull kind of come together. Hulkling is born, and then we move forward, but I feel like that's so long down the road that would be awful for them to wait. It doesn't really fit with this Young Avengers thing,
Well, have you ever watched that show, V, the series? Either the recent one or the original one back in the 80s, where there was a human visitor hybrid kid, and the kid went from baby to infant to grown adult, that because of the mixture of alien stuff. So they could have followed that same thing here. he could already be out there in an egg somewhere too that we just don't know he's out there, and they end up discovering him or something like that. So
Yeah,
And Secret Invasion set it up too, where we know the Skrulls live like 5 times longer than humans. So like, if he is going to be a teenager, then he would need to like age for like 75 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, it's hard to do that.
They won't give up the opportunity of showing us the Billy Teddy relationship on screen. They won't. That
I agree.
100% that will be there. And with Billy looking like, that's who we're seeing in the Darkhold Diaries. We've just seen some released. Well, actually, I think they were leaked screenshots from a little featurette there. So there's no chance that they will give up the chance of that relationship.
And he's aged up too.
Yeah.
So, like they aged him up. I mean, they could very well just, pull Hulkling from another universe or something like that, and do it like that too. Hey, here's an alternative to, the whole Kree Skrull thing that's been happening in the 616, and then boom, they could just present it like that,
Yeah.
Maybe even Monica's universe. That would be interesting if like Hulkling came from that one, the one where Monica's in now,
I'd be quite happy to see a proper Captain Marvel alternate universe, a Marvel, alternate universe Teddy.
From the chat here, first one, currently writing a Batman Christmas special script with Killer Croc as the villain. So as I've just been reading Killer Croc comics for a good while, he's haunting my dreams. Such a great character. So yeah.
Killer Croc.
He was one of my favorites in Suicide Squad too. Just the way that they did him in that. From this one, Tony Stark for Gen Z, Kamala, that is.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
And then, the great point there. And then maybe they use Scar instead. Yeah, I purposely did not mention Scar. I did not want to go back to Scar right now unless something drastically changed with that character, because the way he just popped in at the end of She-Hulk and just the way it seemed, I'm just like, I don't know about all that. But yeah, Scar could be on the team too as well, I guess.
I'm really excited, and I feel like this character has kind of just like disappeared ever since Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but Patriot, right?
Yeah,
like
Isaiah Bradley.
Bradley. Isaiah Bradley.
It's Eli Bradley.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Eli Bradley. Isaiah's the dad. Not the dad, but the grandfather.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eli Bradley. Thank you.
Eli's the grandson.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But I think Patriot would be like, I look forward to that one. That one would be really interesting, right? Because you could almost have him like have the super soldier serum be like naturally in his blood, and nobody really know that, and then all of a sudden one day it just cuts on, and boom, in the MCU.
Like Homelander's kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that would be awesome to see that on screen. And obviously they put him in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier because they plan on doing that with him. I feel like putting him in the in the Young Avengers. So it's one of those things. I feel like that's just another character that I'm really excited to see, and I really hope that they do something with.
From the chat here, Scar needs a better haircut that we can do something about it. Yeah. It's a better look.
What's it with you and haircuts tonight, Ali? Beast had a good new haircut. Yeah. Although I do agree, Scar needs a better haircut. Okay. Yes, I think there's lots of possibilities out there with the new Avengers. I mean, I hope they get going on that pretty quickly. I mean, even Kate made the joke in that little scene, didn't she? She's like, well, I'm 23.
Yeah.
How old is these actresses and actors going to be? Hayley Steinfeld could well be in her 30s before they do a young Avengers. I mean, how young are these Avengers going to be? But yeah, hopefully they'll start pulling the trigger on some of that a little bit quicker. Let's move on. Let's get on to some news. I think we discussed the Marvels and all of the little things that have come off of that for long enough now. So let's move on.
Okay, so Marvel's news. The Marvel is the highest grossing debut film for a black female director. So that's good. So it makes box office history with $110 million for opening debut. Via the Hollywood Reporter, there was a version of the end scene that saw Kamala recruiting a different young Avenger, says Iman Vellani. Iman Vellani also says she's hoping season 2 will be greenlit. I hope all the love that Kamala is getting from this movie inspires people to be more vocal about wanting a season 2. Kamala and her entire community has so much story left to tell, which a season 2 would be interesting too. Maybe she brings Kate in And it's just Kate and Kamala in season 2, and then by the end we get Cassie shows up, but they do
I
other
was gonna
stuff.
say, maybe they could do a season 2 where they use that as kind of a Young Avengers sort of origin story type thing, where that's what season 2 is, her bringing together a few Young Avengers. That might be a way of expediting that team a little bit better. Rather than waiting for a movie, maybe like you said, it starts with her and Kate, then she brings in Cassie, maybe then Billy turns up and Eli turns up, and then they've got the origins of a team. That could be an option.
According to Daniel RPK, season 2 is being discussed. There was news out there saying that season 2 is happening, but he tweeted and said, nope, that's not what I said. My words are being twisted. It's just being discussed right now for season 2 for Miss Marvel. Via Slash Film, more on that last scene. There were more characters in it. I will not say the characters, but there were more characters. It changed a couple times, and I think what ended up being is honestly perfect. This was from Iman Vellani as well. She also addresses Marvel Studios fandom as well. She says these fandoms, the whole point of them is so that people who are passionate about these nerdy things, they can talk about it without being judged and can share their excitement with only other people in the entire world who all reciprocate. So I think people just need to be a little patient and let them cook. I think keep the fandom positive in the meantime. Share what you are enjoying. So that's like one of the best castings I think, because it's her comic knowledge, and she's co-written a comic now, and just every time she speaks, it's always gold coming out of her mouth. So, executive producer Mary Lavanos talked to EW on the post-credit scene. The notion that Monica ends up in an alternate universe with the hope that it could be a tie-in with X-Men was something I always had on my to-do list. I love how in the comics, Carol Danvers as Binary spends some time with the X-Men in space. I'm so delighted that Kevin Feige and folks were stoked about the idea of Binary and the fact that she does fit into the X-Men universe. As a fan, I was just absolutely floored and delighted that we got to get Beast in there and have a big bold X right behind Binary. It was bananas. So, Kelsey Grammer on coming back. Kevin Feige. Oh, she says on Kelsey Grammer coming back. Kevin Feige just called him up. Kevin, of course, worked on the X-Men films back in the day, so they have their own wonderful relationship. We're just so lucky to have him. Kelsey Grammer also said via the Wrap that he's confident you will see him play Beast again. I see him as an extraordinary character, a real character of gravitas and importance in our culture. So, Iman Vellani also reveals an alternate ending to the Marvels with Zay Ashton Darbin. Monica was using her abilities in concert with Kara and Kamala to close the rip in space-time. And actually there was a storyboard where you can see all three of them in space doing this to close that. Then Monica would have accepted Photon as her code name after the team-up. It was a cool moment, but I think they took it out for a good reason. She also talks about her MCU Dream Team. The chemistry between Kamala, Miles, and Sam, it's too good. I would love to see the trio in the MCU. I love Sam Alexander. When Sam tried to reveal his identity and Kamala was like, get away from me, I love it. So she also wants Young Avengers to be a feature film. Some plot elements here, last things on the Marvels here. Reportedly, plot elements that were cut. Kamala wasn't able to take off her bangle and was imprisoned and tortured by Darbin. Captain Marvel and Valkyrie were explicitly together in the past. Cut quote, we work better as friends, but Disney are cowards, someone said, as that was in this reporting. Prince John was supposed to gift each of the Marvels with a new suit right before gathering his army, which we saw that happen, so that actually did happen. Kamala's new suit originally turned into a spacesuit, which would have been used to join Carol and Monica to close the rip in space-time together. And you saw that in the storyboard where she's like in this type of silver type thing, almost looking like Silver Surfer with some Golby stuff in that storyboard. So that's all the Marvels news. What If, right? So we're going to get 9 days of What If. Season 2 is going to premiere December 22nd. They'll release one episode every day from December 22nd until December 30th. So far, it looks like the first episode is going to be What If Nebula joined the Nova Corps? What if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? So that whole little tease at the end with Peter Quill and Ego in season 1. Looks like they're going to follow up on that. What if... Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, which they show that shot in the trailer of like him as a little boy, and he's at the fair, and he pulls the stuffed animal off. I don't know if you guys noticed, but he grabs like a raccoon, like stuffed animal, and holds it, and it just instantly made me think of Rocket. Like it's like almost like I just thought it was a cool little thing that they threw in there. So
on what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? That's probably going to be the third episode, so that's going to be on Christmas. What if Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster? I think this is going to be the rework of the one that got cut from season 1 due to pandemic about a Sakaar with Iron Man. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? What if the Avengers assembled in 1602? This is going to be the new character we're going to get introduced to as well. What if Hela found the 10 rings? So we're going to get a thing here between the 10 rings on Earth and her and Odin back in the mix. Maybe we'll see the Grandmaster, in this. And then what if Kahori reshaped the world? And then what if Strange Supreme intervened? So
I feel like that Strange Supreme intervened. He's going to be taking kind of like that Watcher role in this season, and he's going to probably be going and pulling people in from other universes and other things and stuff like that. And he'll be sitting in his little pocket spot of that universe he destroyed, and then because I mean, like he seemed kind of friendly with the Watcher at the end of season 1, like kind of like, all right, I'll see you later, old friend, kind of type of thing, So yeah, and I'm looking forward to that Avengers 1602 as well. I think Neil Gaiman wrote that actual comic, so that'll be kind of cool. There was one more. Oh, the Odin and the 10 Rings. I think it's really cool that we're going to see that one too, because like I talked about this on the group, but Odin brought the Tesseract to Earth like 1,000 years ago and left it on Earth, and we know that what's his name, Wenwu had the rings for probably like 1,000 years.
Yep.
So maybe Odin comes to Earth to bring the Tesseract and runs into Wenwu, who's out there, with the 10 rings, and then they go at each other, and Hela gets involved. And, yeah. So,
Wenwu. I see the Grandmaster line. Why I say Grandmaster Wenwu? Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think that might be one of the coolest, like, kind of things that we might see in What If this season. So I'm pretty stoked for that.
Loki news. Kei Hu Kwan via Instagram says he wore a data utility belt as a reference to his character in the Goonies. That would be so great if they threw like a little tie in there to say that was his variant from the Goonies, or his variant was in. Was it Oregon or Washington where the Goonies were, and, that would be pretty cool if he had one of the variants like that. So, yeah, I hope he comes back. He was great in Loki Season 2. I want to see more of him. Especially, we know that the TVA is doing stuff now, and they're fighting right now. And so, as they build into this whole Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty, I hope we see more of him. Thor 5. Taika Waititi confirms he's not directing Thor 5, but Chris Hemsworth is in talks for return. He says, I'm going to concentrate on these other films I've signed for. It's a very draining process working on these films for 2.5 years and nonstop. I need a break from that. Which I like Taika to come back. Love and Thunder could have been better, but, look how good Ragnarok was. His new soccer film that he has out with Michael Fassbender, I want to see that one. That looks pretty good. I've seen some of his other films like Boy and other stuff, so I think he can do those things. From the chat here about Kei Hu Kwan, I wanted a short round reference. Maybe another variant out there. So yeah, Thor 5 looks like it's gonna be, and that will be what Thor 4 was the first one to get a 4th film, and now Thor's gonna be the first one to get a 5th film. So that's interesting. Out of the big 3 that started off that he's getting 5 films.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show the love for Chris Hemsworth. I think. He's one of the biggest actors in the world right now. I'd say. So get him on screen. I guess that's the message that they're giving us. I'd like to see somebody else give it a crack now. I think for me, it's Waititi's had he's a couple of goes at it, hasn't he? So I think it's somebody else's turn, really.
Yeah.
Who do you think? Go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I don't know who I would put in charge of that. Like I personally think the 4th one was worse than Dark World in my opinion, like, and it's weird because it's like you look at the tone of the first two movies and then you look at the tone of the second Thor movies, and it's like they're like night and day. They're completely different, and honestly, I would love to see. I think Chris Hemsworth kills that character, right? Like, I mean, everybody loves Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Everybody loves Thor. Like, I'm not a Thor fan for the most part. Like, I like Beta Ray Bill more than I like Thor, but I'm still holding out that we're going to get Beta Ray Bill in a Thor movie at some point, and I'm hoping it's the next one. I feel like I've been saying that for like the last 2 or 3 now, but like, it's one of those things where that's such a popular character. Everybody knows who Thor is. You can't go wrong with Thor, and they just need to write it well. That's the only thing I ask,
I hope they build on what we saw with Hercules tease at the end of Love and Thunder. I hope that we do get Beta Ray Bill. I do also hope that it's they kind of gloss over the love stuff this next film for now. That's why I didn't mention her at all for Young Avengers, but they kind of gloss over that. She's just chilling somewhere. But I hope they do like that whole War of the Gods thing that, they're starting to get taken out. And at first, Thor and Hercules are enemies. They end up, having a battle. Maybe we get that on the Corbinites world or something like that, and that's where Beta Ray Bill steps in because he's the retired champion from Sakaar, and then they 3 go off and have to save the day, type of thing. So I hope that's kind of the premise of the next film. Maybe kind of continue to build on stuff. So.
And a small part of me believes that like Hercules might come to Earth looking for Thor on New Asgard, but then like. Also, like me, I think Valkyrie could handle Hercules at that point. Like, be like, I'm not even gonna let Thor know. Like, I'll just try and handle him real quick, type of thing. But like, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that would be a great way, like him come to New Asgard and cause a bunch of problems, and Thor comes back, and then like that causes a showdown to happen. But yeah, I mean, they are missing an opportunity if they don't use Hercules, I feel like, in something Thor related for the next project. So,
especially we know that Heimler probably not going to play Thor forever, and then kind of sliding Hercules into that Thor role, or even Beta Ray Bill. You kind of got to establish that. So
definitely.
Yep. And on Taika Waititi from the chat here, he's about to do a Star Wars film. Yep, he is. A great point there. I think I have some about Star Wars coming up later on in the news. Daredevil Born Again, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, was originally set to appear in it. His inclusion in the series remains unclear due to the current rework. What if Bucky, is suing Nebula or Rocket to get his arm back? I don't know. He's a lawyer. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see what role he'd play in that series. Via Daniel RPK, the original plot details involving Karen and Foggy are reportedly accurate. However, Deborah Ann Wall could be returning to the series as her schedule has cleared up. Also, Eldon Henson reportedly will also return from the show, what I saw out there, and people were saying that from Daniel RPK. So maybe we'll get Karen and Foggy back in the rework of the show since they're starting from ground zero. From the chat here, love that he's going to be in it. Moon Knight series, also via Daniel RPK. Season 2 is reportedly in development at Marvel Studios. The series will have more than 6 episodes. Now, I wonder how they're going to do this. I hope we get more Jake in this one. I also hope we get more crossover into other projects too, because other than the whole GRC van that we saw, there's really no big tie-in, and I think they missed some big ties. Like Alex had before in the past, instead of Alexander the Great, that should have been Rama Tut they found. Maybe we get Rama Tut something in the second season. Maybe we get more with the other side of things. Maybe he runs into her by night. We get a Jack Russell reference or something. Maybe we get, I don't know, but hopefully they do some kind of crossover. So
just this is completely random, but I just want to throw this out there. Imagine if it wasn't, Rama Tut and it wasn't Alexander the Great. Like, imagine that was like the Tomb of Apocalypse or something like that. That would have been really cool if they did something like that.
Yes.
I've got a feeling that absolutely everything is in works at Marvel Studios. Like, everything. They've got teams writing for everything. So basically, when these people come out and go, oh, this is in development, like, they're not wrong. They're never going to be wrong. Like, I could turn around and go, there's a, series coming out about Paste Pot Pete. And do you know what? Somebody at Marvel is probably writing a series about Paste Pot Pete. And then they get to go and pitch it to Feige and all the other top execs. And if it's any good, they'll consider it again for a next phase. Like, I think everything gets pitched. I would not be surprised if half of these things that these people are saying are rumored do not get anywhere near becoming a project, because certainly after what's happened over the last couple of years, where they've just gone absolutely crazy with content and probably oversaturated the general population, which is why we're starting to see a drop off in streaming and why we're starting to see a drop off in the box office and things like that, because people like us are going to go see the movies.
Yeah.
But are the general population going to go and see the movies if it's all that's in the movies? They're probably not. So, you know, I got a feeling, you know, some of this stuff is never, ever going to get made. These guys aren't wrong when they say it's in development, because I would say that everything's in development. But development just means that somebody's writing something and it might not ever get
storyboarding it. Yeah.
Yeah, it might not ever get out of their notebook.
Yeah, I mean, do characters like Paste Pot Pete or say Stiltman need a project, you know? Like, no, they don't. But like, you can throw Stiltman in a Daredevil project, and that would be great just to have him in there for like one episode. Like, funny, it'd be like the most ridiculous thing ever seeing that on screen. But like, as an old villain from the last 50 years, seeing him in comic books, it's like one of those things where it's like, back then it was like, oh, Stiltman, but like now it's like, obviously that's a ridiculous character, you know? Like,
hey, rip it.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah.
But I mean, they did a really cool job with that character, though, with the aspect of like Matt Murdock sitting in court and being like, it smells like he was using the wrong kind of fuel in there, you know? Like, and I liked how they kind of did that. But you know, you can only have Matt Murdock do that so much for some of those characters, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, I think my point being is that I think that everything's being written for. Everyone is being written for. Everything is in development, quote unquote. So when these people come out and go, oh, you know, season 2 of whatever's being written or in development, like, yeah, they're not wrong, but you know, whether it actually gets anywhere or not is a completely different matter.
Mm-hmm.
From the chat here, more monsters with Moon Knight 2, tie it in, set him up with Midnight Suns. Exactly.
Yeah.
You could keep that all separate too. Like, you could have a whole monsterverse side of the MCU and never cross over until we need them to, or not at all.
Yeah, make it like a supernatural underworld in the MCU, like the you know, the thing that people like Tony Stark would never see, because Tony Stark's out there fighting, you know, different threats. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's different characters fighting different things. You don't have to have like everybody, like Doctor Strange could pop into this and then, you know, like be like, oh yeah, you know, I fought this entity before or something like that, kind of pop out. Like with the supernatural kind of side of the MCU, we haven't really seen a lot of that. I feel like we've seen like Doctor Strange, Werewolf by Night, like some stuff.
Agatha.
Yeah. And I guess like Wanda sort of is in a way, but like, you know, it's kind of one of those things, like until she really became the Scarlet Witch, they kind of really didn't jump into that kind of, I feel like, thing in until WandaVision. So like, I feel like there's a lot that they could explore with the supernatural side, you know?
Moon Knight has to be Punisher, LOL. You know, they could. You know what they could do with Moon Knight with Punisher? That Moon Knight needs some kind of special bullet, you know, made because he's going after Jack Russell, and that's how he gets that, you know, mixed up with the Punisher to get that, you know, fashion formed. You know, so I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Thunderbolts news. Robert Kirkman accidentally confirmed Stephen Yeun's role while speaking to comic artist David Finch. My good friend Stephen Yeun is playing the Sentry in a movie. Yeah, he called me. He went in for a costume fit-in. I hope I'm not. I don't think it's a spoiler or anything that will get anybody in trouble. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I don't care. I don't work for Marvel. What are they going to do to me? So it looks like we've all known this. This is the worst kept secret in the industry. We all know he's playing Sentry, but it's pretty much confirmed there by Robert Kirkman.
Yeah, I watched that show with Robert Kirkman, and yeah, it was quite funny actually. He was like, I don't care. I don't work for Marvel. It doesn't matter to me. What are they going to do to me?
I feel like we got somebody else in trouble there, though. But, yeah. So
because
he may no longer be playing Sentry after.
Yeah. That was my first thought, you know.
Because there is that Brazil conference this upcoming weekend. It's like the 10-year of it. I don't know if Marvel's going to show up or not, but they might do a surprise and say, hey, Thunderbolts, you know, or Fantastic Four, you know, but we'll see. Reportedly, the Void is not just the embodiment of Bob Reynolds' negative aspects, emotions. It becomes an entire realm that characters will be able to enter. That's interesting.
Like the Void that, you know, we have in Loki.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same thing. Yeah.
Maybe they can enter his mind, almost like enter his sort of negative space.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I know, like, I kind of like was playing with some stuff, but I talked to, I think, in the spoiler chat about how, like, you know, they could potentially use maybe like Alioth like as that kind of void personality that comes out, and that's all the tears in time and space, like they mentioned, is what creates Alioth. So maybe they could kind of link Sentry to this multiverse stuff in that way, and it would kind of fit him into this multiverse stuff. And I think it would be, I mean, they talk about in the comics how, you know, the Sentry / the Void can like destroy universes. He could destroy the universe if he wanted to. So, I mean, you could kind of play that with the multiverse saga, in my opinion.
Sanja Hayes, costume designer for Captain Marvel and Spider-Man No Way Home, will also work on Thunderbolts. So, familiar face there. Also, there's chatter of more characters being added as well. There's an actress called Ayo Edebiri. We still know who she's playing. Could she be playing Meteorite / Moonstone, possibly? Mm-hmm. Another scientist that was kind of like, I think she mimicked the Captain Marvel of the Thunderbolts, if you remember correctly, but her villainous role was Meteorite, but also by Moonstone as well in the comics. I wonder if she's playing that character. I'm trying to think who else could she play on the team. I don't think they're going to add Korean Mimi right now. Songbird. I don't think with everything going on in the world, they're going to add her right now.
Yeah, great character though.
Yeah.
Yeah, shame.
Because her background, you know what I mean? I don't think they're going to add her right now unless they completely ignore the background, but I don't think they're going to do that either. So she could be playing Songbird. We'll see. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Fantastic Four news. So the reason for delay in announcing is allegedly due to actors turning down the role of Reed Richards, as the script is focused on Sue, which that's a weak sauce, you know, if they're doing that. You know, that's kind of weak sauce to me. If it's focused on Sue and they don't want to be in the film, even though it's focused on film, Reed is still a pretty big part of her life, you know? And so that's kind of weird to me, hearing that reported. Vanessa Kirby, when asked about the role of Sue Storm during the Napoleon premiere in Paris, I don't know, you'll have to ask them. I'd be very honored to join. She kind of played out pretty well because I saw the interview when she did that. So it almost seems like she, you know, probably is already cast. You know, I do have the casting, what they pretty much are saying is out there. The rumor is Pedro Pascal is the new frontrunner for Reed Richards, but also I report he could be playing the villain. You know, I don't think he's playing Doom, but could he be the maker in this film, which Andy has said he'd love to see that concept in the film. But it sounds like Pedro Pascal is going to be Reed Richards.
What did he, you know, like when they was asking Vanessa Kirby whether she was playing Sue Storm, what did they expect her to say? Did they expect her to go, yeah, that's me?
Yeah, I mean, you're under contract to basically not talk about it if you've already signed, you know, so like you're told you can talk about it probably at this point, and it's not that point yet. So I mean, of course, like every time they're gonna be like, oh no, I can't talk, no, I'm not, like, you know, and it's like, obviously, like, they're not gonna be like, yes, I am, and it's
just as a side note, I don't know what it's like in popular sports over there in the States, but I watch obviously I watch a lot of soccer over here, and you hear them interviewing the players afterwards, and they say the exact same thing every single game. After, it doesn't matter whether they win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter whether they've won 10-0, whether they had the best game of their lives or the worst game of their lives, they all say the same stuff every single time. And you're like, what are you reporters expecting these young lads to actually come out with some sort of genius insight? Like, it never really happens. They always just sort of go, yeah, I tried to do the best for the team, and we did that today, or no, we didn't do that today, and we'll have to go back to the training ground and work hard for next week. That is literally all they ever say, and just in slightly different variations. And I kind of just sit there and think, who are you doing this for? Like, who are you asking these questions for? Because you're not going to you're not going to get anything interesting out of them. And I kind of think the same when they're on the red carpet, like you just said, Alex, when they're under contract. Like, why are you asking them questions? Like, you know they're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
This is pointless.
I feel like somebody else. They just want them to like slip up. Like, they think that one time is going to like catch them off guard or something, like, and it's not like they're like Mark Ruffalo or Tom Holland,
I say the same
right?
thing.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, I love that thing where like Mark Ruffalo is like being interviewed with Don Cheadle, and he's like, wait till you see this next one, everybody dies, and Don Cheadle's like, ew. And then like he's like, oh, do you think I'm gonna get in trouble? And like he's like, Don Cheadle's like, dude, just shut up and stop talking, you know, like, You're just digging a hole for yourself, you know.
And from the chat here is the same Skrill response for the media. It is, but sports, there's always some good moments where you'll see a player throw his team under the bus, a coach throw his team under the bus. I used to love like Marshawn Lynch, who plays football here. He used to always say like both teams played hard. Or I'm sorry, no. He would say, I'm going to steer so I don't get fined. Or then you had Rasheed Wallace, who'd always get in trouble in the NBA with all the technical fouls and playing basketball. And he's like, both teams played hard. And he just kept saying that thing the whole time. Like, give that generic response because he knows if he says anything, he's going to get in bigger trouble. Yeah. Christopher Abbott and Jamie Dornan reportedly tested for the role of Reed Richards as well. Jamie Dornan, which one is he? He's the one
He's
from
50 Shades.
Okay, I thought so. I don't know who Christopher Abbott is, though.
No.
According to Jeff Snyder, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Yvonne Moss Backrack have been cast in the film as Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm. So, Mason Gooding seemingly confirmed via social media he's no longer running to play Johnny Storm. So, you're seeing people who aren't playing the roles come out and say stuff.
Just going back on, if those three rumors are true, just going on that then makes. If Pedro Pascal is a correct rumor for Reed, it just makes him about 15 years older than all the others, which doesn't quite make sense to me. You know,
So could he play?
don't get me wrong, I love Pedro Pascal, and I think he'd do a great job as Reed. I don't quite understand it with those other. It doesn't line up with all the other rumors, you know. And usually these rumors do kind of make a little bit of sense, but this one kind of doesn't really when you look at it as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope it's not true because I don't know. I think we've kind of had an oversaturation with Disney and Pedro Pascal, you know. So, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying, you know, it's
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on him playing Reed. I think Reed's one of those, it's such a hard character to get right. Like, do I think Pedro's like the best for Reed? Definitely not. He wouldn't be my first choice. He probably wouldn't be in my top 5, to be honest. But like, he's a good actor. You know, like, and it's almost like one of those, like, I'm not going to be upset if he plays Reed.
I'm not either, but
like,
it's a funny situation because you know he'd do a great job, but you kind of like, I don't want him to do it. Like, I want somebody else to do it. I don't want him to do this.
Like it's not like I'm gonna be like out here like flipping out about it, you know. Like, we got to get somebody else cast, like whatever, you know. Like,
and honestly, if the rest of the cast is who they are, those are pretty much knowns in the industry, especially Vanessa Kirby. Mm-hmm. Why not bring in an unknown for Reed or an up-and-coming actor for Reed? Especially if the story is Sue focused, you don't need a big headliner for Reed.
This is what I mean. These rumors are just so all over the place. We're not really going to focus on Reed. Let's pay Pedro Pascal to play Reed.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Maybe he's Herbie. Maybe he's voicing Herbie.
Brilliant.
I just love the meme of Pedro as Maxwell Lord from the second Wonder Woman movie, and it's like, life is good, but it could be fantastic, and it's him like pointing. Like, I just love that.
I like what Boss Logic done and just made him look like everybody. All of them. And he's got a mustache in every single one of them. He's like there as Sue with like blonde bangs and just like a little mustache.
It gives me like Miss Doubtfire vibes as him, like as Sue Storm for some reason. So
my favorite casting for Reed was still the guy who in Quantumania. Before he was in Quantumania, he could read the minds, understand them.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
I can't remember the guy's name, but
but that actor was because he kind of has that vibe of a Reed. Reportedly, Javier Bardem is eyed for Galactus. And Galactus' Herald, the Silver Surfer, will be played by a woman via Jeff Snyder. Now, it may not have to be Silver Surfer. This could be another Herald. There were so many Heralds they had for Galactus. Like I said, I wish they would have made Dar-Benn in Herald. But, you know, there's Juno, who's Hercules' granddaughter. She was a female Herald. You also have Nova, Frankie Ray. You know, so I think it's going to be, if it's Silver Surfer, I think it's going to be Juno, because she actually was Silver Surfer, if I remember correctly, in the comics. But if it's not Silver Surfer, I think it might be Frankie Nova, or Frankie Ray Nova. So
I was talking about this with my wife the other day, and we were saying that I was just talking about the idea of Silver Surfer becoming a female, and I said that, I mean, other than the origin story of Norrin Radd, once he becomes Silver Surfer, is it important that he's a male or a female? And then I'm not sure that it is. But then my wife then said, well, then why bother swapping the character?
Yeah.
Like, if it's not important what he is, leave him the same.
Yeah.
Like, if he and I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, I didn't really think about that until she said it, because I was saying, well, why not change it? But then why change it? It's the same thing, isn't it? It's like, we'll just leave it the same, isn't it? It doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter that he's a male or a female, then just leave him where he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope that we kind of put the whole Galactus and Silver Surfer thing on the shelf for a little while, like we see Harold, you know. It sounds like we probably won't, unfortunately. Like, it seems like I'm just worried that we're going to see the whole Galactus, Silver Surfer, and the Fantastic Four kind of crammed together in another project or something in the near future, and that's what I'm worried about. But
Actually, we're not, because it's being reported today that I saw that Galactus will be a cameo, but will not be the main focus of this film.
okay.
So, but listen to this other news I got coming up though first. Antonio Banderas was previously rumored to have been offered the role of Galactus, which that was rumored before for a while, but I guess now it's Javier Bardem, which I loved Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men.
Brilliant actor.
Love that movie. Reportedly, Mads Mikkelsen is one of the actors Marvel is considering for Doom. We saw Mads in Doctor Strange. Again, no issue with recasting. We've seen it before. It's happened a couple times already in the MCU. John Hamm wants to play Doctor Doom as well, he said. Also, too, another report I saw earlier is that Cillian Murphy was being up there for Doom, probably considered. But here's the big one. Or John Hamm said, I hope I get a chance, was his quote. But Daniel RPK was saying that Anna Taylor-Joy is being eyed to play the villain in Fantastic Four. So she could be the female Surfer. I'm trying to think who else could she be if not the Juno or Noah Frankie Ray. Who else she could be as a villain? I'm trying to think what major female villains they kind of had come across in the Fantastic Four.
I don't know.
I
would really. That the Frightful Four or something like that. They bring, I mean, that would be really cool if she came back as Magic, I think. I mean, I don't think that they would do that. I liked her. That was like one of my favorite castings in the New Mutants, was her as Magic. I thought she did a great job with that role. Obviously, I don't think that she would be the villain of the Fantastic Four as Magic, you know. But yeah, that's hard. I don't really know. I like I said, I really preferred her in that role. I thought she killed that role. She did a really good job.
Good coming here towards your wife, Andy. Your wife is onto something, I think. It feels like creative controversy. Doesn't make much difference to me either way, but I don't see the point of swapping it if it's Silver Surfer. If a different Herald, then it makes perfect sense. There you go. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. I know if this is a Sue-focused film, could Anna Taylor-Joy be the Malice part of Sue Storm in this film? Because didn't she get she got taken over by Malice, right? Malice was I gotta go back and check, but I thought Malice was like at one point somebody else, but then Sue Storm got like taken over by Malice and became Malice for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know what? I think I've said this on this show before. Fantastic Four has never been a comic that I've automatically just gone and picked up. It's they've always bored me a little bit,
because it's the way it's written. It's like we talk about with the guys in the Riri podcast guys. It's it's the way it's
so
written.
old. And, it's like and the new stuff has been better. But yeah, I couldn't tell you, Joey. I'm not entirely sure on that subject.
I feel like that's part of the problem with the Fantastic Four, right? Is like the Fantastic Four have been around so long now too, and it's like to modernize those characters, it's kind of hard, like to kind of make them interesting in today's world. And I know we've like talked about like our thoughts and stuff on it. We've talked about them potentially being like in the 60s and stuff like that. Like they're like perfect from the 60s, from that era, and it's like almost like they're kind of campy almost, like in a way. And it's almost kind of hard to do that, in 2023, I feel like, versus when they were first starting being written and everything like that. So it's definitely hard to read them. I've never been a big Fantastic Four fan myself. And I think those characters are incredibly hard to bring on screen.
Go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were
I
done.
was just gonna say we've seen a lot of not really great jobs doing that so far with other Fantastic Four movies.
Well, they're gonna have to do something quick because production starts in 2024 for this film. So
Better get on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year we get a cast announcement because they probably got to get rolling because it's a 2025 film, isn't it?
Apparently, yeah. I think we've said it on the show before, and I still think this is the way they should go. They should go that they're a team of scientists that have been lost in time. They have to fight someone, someone minor. Maybe there's a Galactus.
Mole Man.
Yeah, Mole Man, perfect. But they get lost in time. A little bit. Maybe the film is bookended by the modern, the present MCU, but actually the main film takes part in another time, another universe, another dimension, whatever, and then they come back again into our dimension, and then we see a little tease of Galactus and Silver Surfer ready for something else in the future.
They just got to copy that Captain America format where Steve fights in like World War II and then wakes up in the modern day at the end. That would just be perfect if they just did something like that.
And then it would kind of explain that campiness, that 60s campiness, wouldn't it? It would you would then almost like accept it a little bit better, and then they could stay true to themselves as characters, but then build themselves like Steve's done, did in the MCU, like build himself up to a modern character over the course of 3 or 4 different projects and films.
So they've already teased Subatomica in Quantumania. Could they make Psycho Man the villain, but gender swap and make it Psycho Woman and have Anna Taylor-Joy play that character as the villain? So
Yeah.
But yeah, production starts next year. They got to get the train on the tracks here with this cast and the film. Wonder Man news is set to resume filming after Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving was Thursday, so Wonder Man is going to start resume filming soon. Daniel Cretton is the executive producer and directed the first 2 episodes. Oh, and will direct the first 2 episodes of Wonder Man. He's the one that did Shang-Chi. Like Echo, it will be a Spotlight project. So it's going to fall under the Spotlight banner. And right now, the only current tie to the MCU that we know of is going to be Trevor Slattery, the Mandarin. I am the Mandarin. So, yeah. Speaking of Shang-Chi, DDC, Daniel Destin Cretton, is already working on the script, already working on the sequel for Shang-Chi. He's no longer working on the Kang Dynasty, but like I just said, he's working on the Wonder Man series, and he's working on the Shang-Chi sequel. Via Daniel RPK, it looks like they're eyeing a 2024 to 2025 production begin date, so probably the second half to the end of next year for the Shang-Chi sequel. I wonder if that's gonna be like a time thing, like something like that. I still want to know that whole thing at the end of the first one too, with the whole beacon, and the rings, and where it looked like we kind of had that whole thing between Banner and Carol and Wong as well. So interesting to see how they build on that. Like I saw something like some people do like post like the Records of Time or something like that as a concept, which would fit in this current phase with multiverse stuff. So, there is an untitled Wakanda series. It's gonna be produced by Ryan Coogler. It's also gonna be a Spotlight project as well. It's going to focus on Okoye on a mission. Could this be how Okoye got out Everett Ross, maybe?
Yeah.
Or something else. It's also being reported that this series will premiere before Ironheart in 2025. So it looks like it's going to be a bridge to Wakanda Forever and possibly Ironheart.
Cool.
So we have some WandaVision Agatha news. I know it's late, Andy, so we're almost done. We're getting towards the end here. Matt Shakman cast doubt on season 2 via the direct. This is for WandaVision season 2. I don't think so. We're telling a very specific story, a complete story, a story about grief, about Wanda's journey, having lost vision, and we complete that story. And Jack Schaefer is an amazing writer, or Jack, who wrote WandaVision, and she has created a show called Agatha. Agatha is not WandaVision season 2, but it's definitely existing in that universe, of course, with some of the characters that you met on the show. Agatha in particular. So there are elements of WandaVision that are out there still in their own way. but a proper WandaVision season 2 with more sitcom styles and all that definitely is not in the cards. So,
What about Vision Quest?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Did I have? Wait, did I? I know we talked. I've noted it down. But Vision Quest is still happening.
Okay.
I don't know if I have it.
That kind of felt like a WandaVision season 2, kind of in a way to me. You know,
Yeah.
like
So let me go here. Where was I? Oh, Patty Lupon has confirmed that Agatha Darkhold Diaries will finally be released next Halloween. We are a coven of witches. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my career because of Jacques Schaefer and Catherine Hahn. It's coming out Halloween. Via Daniel RPK, most of the rumored Marvel Studios special presentations are being shelved for now due to them underflowing on Disney+. However, the Witches Road special presentation is still to be released, but being handled differently. So I wonder if this is being shifted over to Marvel Spotlight as well, or something else.
okay.
From the chat, loved it, but I don't think WandaVision needs a second season. I agree. They're branching out. We have Multiverse of Madness. We have Agatha now. Vision Quest is coming still. I think Vision Quest's production is starting next year. I might not have my notes, but I think I posted that somewhere. Also, what's that? But yeah, so Marvel Spotlight possibly looks like it's going to happen for Witches Road special presentation. There is some pictures floating out there. I'm not going to talk about them because they're potential spoilers for Agatha Darkhold Diaries, but it looks like some things are going to be possibly explained that we've been waiting for. Anyways, moving on. Scarlet Witch, via Daniel RPK. Marvel Studios reportedly wants a Scarlet Witch project to be a movie. Jacques Schaefer is considered as a director and writer for the project. So
I reckon he's got some time on his hands, old Mr. RPK.
yeah,
He's just throwing absolutely everything possible
it's been a lot the past couple days. Yeah,
at the wall and just seeing what's going to happen. Like if I say a million things, one of these things is going to come true, and then I can say, "Look, I was right."
Deadpool 3, Ryan Reynolds on casting rumors. I love it. I think it's a sign of how eager people are to get a peek behind the curtain in this world. Every single one of these secrets and spoilers will be revealed on July 26th.
Awesome.
Also via Daniel RPK, Marvel Studios reportedly decided to have Deadpool 3 as the only film that will release next year due to them being extremely confident in it. They expect the film to deliver at the box office with critics and make fans excited for the MCU again, which I think is a good idea to only have one film next year because you kind of bring everyone in. But,
I think that was probably through circumstance, surely, due to the writer's strike. Like, I don't think they decided on just having this. It was like, we can't actually do anymore. This guy cracks me up. Sorry.
Looks like the Nostalgic Pod Blast is back. Hey, welcome back, Nostalgic Pod Blast.
Yeah.
We're past the Marvel stuff, so if you haven't seen it yet. Oh, here he goes. They enjoyed the Marvels. So nice. Yeah, we all did too. Kang Dynasty news. Even though credit has exited Kang Dynasty, the project is still happening, what's being reported. Kang Dynasty / Secret Wars, Loki producer Kevin Wright says Michael Waldron is writing both. So there's continuity there, kind of like the Russos did Infinity War and Endgame. As far as where it's all going, I can't say, and not because I am being coy, we're not part of those projects. What I would say is, I know Michael Waldron is working on them, and he loves, obviously, this world as he helped create it. Daniel RPK says that reportedly Sam Raimi is one of Marvel's top choices to direct both films. Also, too, there's been some... Oh, he goes all around the stream. Oh, all good. Also, too, there's rumors been out there. I've seen this a couple times being floated out there that they might rework the titles of this and not call it the Kang Dynasty anymore, but make it a multiverse saga finale part 1 and part 2. So possibly Secret Wars part 1 and part 2, maybe, or call it kind of something else. Also via Daniel RPK, he explained that Marvel is open to recasting Kang. They're not leaving the character aside. So I guess it all depends what happens with Major's legal troubles. There's been some speculation the studio may scrap the title The Kang Dynasty altogether. Jeff Snyder shared this, that his source indicated to also 2 more of this might be the case, that the studio might be opt for Avengers Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2. So there's that. Snyder indicated that regardless of the titles, the two films are a two-part story, and with the departure of Cretton, the studio is now looking for one director team of directors to rule them all, which is good continuity there to have them both like that. Silk series. The WGA has threatened legal action against Amazon for keeping certain shows on hold after the strike ended. The Silk series is still one of those shows that are still suspended. So, interesting there. MCU filming updates. Deadpool 3 has already started shooting again. It restarted last week before Thanksgiving. Wonder Man is going to restart anytime now. Thanksgiving's over. Thanksgiving was Thursday for us in the United States here. Captain America Brave New World restarts reshoots in January 2024. Fantastic Four starts spring of 2024. Thunderbolt starts mid-spring 2024. And Vision Quest will be started on next year as well. Now we're on to DC stuff. So we're getting to the end there, Andy.
So I've got about 3% battery left on my laptop. I'm out of here. It's going to be I reckon I've got about 4 minutes of.
Okay, I'll get this quick then. No comments here. I'm just going to go through it. Supergirl. Via The Hollywood Reporter, Anna Nogueira will write Supergirl Women of Tomorrow for DC Studios. Superman Legacy. Maria Gabriela de Faria has landed the villain role as Angela Spica, aka the engineer who was first introduced in 1999's The Authority. Nicholas Hoult has been cast as Lex Luthor. Sarah Sampaio has been cast as Eve Tessmacher. Skylar Guisando cast as Jimmy Olsen. Brainiac will be the main villain. The cast so far of the film is David Cornsett as Clark Kent Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult Lex Luthor, Sarah Sampaio as Eve Tessmacher, Skylar Guisando as Jimmy Olsen, Eddie Gathidi as Mr. Holt, Michael Holt / Mr. Terrific, Maria Gabriela de Faria as the engineer, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner / Green Lantern, Isabella Marced as Hawkgirl, Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho. Justice League Part 2 will be coming in theaters to you soon. Harley Quinn renewed for a 5th season after Max, so another one of those. Aquaman, and they're just sandbagging this movie still already. While promoting Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom on Jimmy Fallon, Jason Momoa states that this will be the end for his Aquaman. He continued to say, "But this isn't the end for me at DC. They like me," basically teasing his return as Lobo and James Gunn's DCU. Star Wars news. Dave Filoni is now the head person in charge. He is now the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm, helping to guide overall creative vision. Will be letting others tell new stories. While still letting others tell new stories, he'll now work directly at Lucasfilm with President Kathleen Kennedy to originate and shepherd the next generation of Star Wars movies and shows. Mandalorian Season 4, again here, Pedro Payne Reed. Season 4 is getting ramped up for filming. Last thing on Star Wars, a documentary about the Star Wars Holiday Special releases on December 5th, so look forward to that. Dune 2 changed dates again. It's now moved up to March 1st. As of right now, the 2024 comic book slate is going to be Madam Web, February 14th, Deadpool 3, July 26th, Kraven the Hunter, August 30th, Joker, Folie à Deux, October 4th, and Venom 3, November 8th. The last piece of news I have is The Karate Kid. This is interesting how they're doing this with Mr. Miyagi no longer with us. The actor Pat
Moriarty.
Yeah, Moriarty. Thank you. Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio reprised their roles together for a new Karate Kid movie. Sony's Karate Kid will shoot in Montreal starting April of 2024. It's supposed to be in theaters December 13th, 2024. That's a quick turnaround. So it looks like Daniel and Mr. Han are teaming up in this film.
Cool.
And that's all I have.
Brilliant, because I've got 1% battery.
Right.
I've got 1% battery left. This is about to die. It's been a good conversation. Couple of hours there. That's a long one. I've had a lot to get through. It's been a good show. Where can I catch us, Jaren, before we go?
Usual places, Twitter. If you're watching via Twitter, we can't see the chat, so make your way over to Twitch, YouTube, our Facebook page, Kick or Trovo. And then always you can see us on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok for when we do the trailers and other things from our group.
Awesome. It's been good. We'll catch you next week. Take care.
See you guys.